In geopolitics, one word is repeatedly overused. Natural allies. You must have heard of it. Apparently, any partnership is natural nowadays. But India and Japan really fit the bill. In terms of culture, in terms of politics, they are natural partners. But more than 70 years ago, the dynamic was different. India and Japan were technically at war. So how did two wartime enemies turn into allies? The temples of Japan offer some clues. We visited one in the heart of Tokyo. From the outside, it looked like any other Buddhist temple. But what we saw inside will surprise you. March 1944, India and Japan stand on the opposite sides of history. Through the rugged hills of India's northeast, Japanese soldiers swarm in. Their goal is to beat the British, to take India for themselves. What followed is an often forgotten episode of World War II, the battles of Imphal and Kohima. It was a grueling campaign. Japan endured their largest defeat of the Second World War. The war put India and Japan on opposing sides. Neither public wanted it. India was under British colonial rule, and the Japanese were blindsided by their military leaders. I know it's hard to imagine today, but 75 years ago, India and Japan were technically enemies. Once the war ended, the relationship changed. India threw off her colonial shackles, and Japan gave up its martial ambitions. Soon, a new Asian partnership blossomed. 2022 is a special year in this journey. It marks 70 years of diplomatic relations between India and Japan. The war is long forgotten. Today, both countries count each other as natural allies. Bilateral trade between India and Japan is worth around $17 billion. Japan is the third largest foreign direct investor in India. Total investments, around $42 billion. Politically too, there is alignment. India and Japan are members of the Quad grouping. They share a similar vision of the Indo-Pacific. At the United Nations, they are part of the G4. Japan, India, Germany and Brazil. All four countries share common views on reforming the UN Security Council. So how did two wartime enemies forge this strong partnership? One reason is the cultural connect. Indian and Japanese civilizations are tied by common threads. Religion, for example. The Japanese believe in the 7 gods of fortune. 4 of them originated as Hindu deities. Benten, drawn from Saraswati. Bishamon, from Kuber. Daikokuten, from Shiv. And Kishoten, from Lakshmi. These deities emerged between the 6th and the 8th centuries. So did Buddhism. Today it is the second most practiced religion in Japan. Buddhism took the long route here, from the subcontinent to China, from China to the Korean peninsula, and from there to Japan. The Buddhism you see here is a hybrid one. And to experience it firsthand, we visited the Benzyathin Temple in Tokyo. This is a Buddhist temple, but the goddess inside is drawn from Hinduism. She's called Benten, and if you look closely, you'll find that the resemblance is uncanny. She has a string instrument in hand. She's the goddess of wisdom and music, much like the Hindu goddess Saraswati. And this shows that the cultural exchange is not superficial. There are at least half a dozen Benten shrines in Tokyo. It's the second most worshipped idol in Japan after Buddha. You can spot many similarities here. The subtle odor of the burning incense sticks, the worshippers lining up to wash their hands, everything reminds you of temples in India. Such cultural ties cultivate warm sentiments. In 1949, Jawaharlal Nehru sent elephants to Tokyo. He named them after his own daughter. The Indian jumbos were a star attraction at the zoo for decades. 3 years later, India and Japan signed a peace treaty, one of Japan's first after World War II. But the relationship never really took off. One reason was the Cold War. Japan was allied with the United States of America. India, on the other hand, was neutral.
Suzuki Samurai. No problem.
This Cold War politics never hampered economic relations though.
No problem.
Nor did it affect people-to-people ties. But strategic alignment never happened. Then came the 1990s, a decade that nearly derailed India-Japan ties. Back in 1998, India conducted the Pokhran nuclear test. Japan was not impressed. Being a victim of nuclear war, Tokyo could not accept New Delhi's decision. Sanctions and diplomatic offensives followed. If the 1990s nearly derailed the ties, the 2000s rescued them. In 2007, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited New Delhi. He was accorded a rare honor by India. Abe became the first foreign leader in almost 10 years to address the Indian Parliament. The Rescue Act of the 2000s was followed by great momentum. In 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi travelled to Japan. India and Japan announced a special strategic partnership. The missing ingredient of the 20th century was found. India and Japan became strategic allies. Rarely does diplomacy offer such congruence: two democracies, two open societies, two economic powerhouses, truly natural partners. But charting the next phase will be tricky. China and the Indo-Pacific loom large over this bilateral partnership. Interestingly, Japan and India are similarly placed. They both share a border with China. They both face Chinese aggression, yet both countries trade heavily with that same China. To realize the goal of a free and open Indo-Pacific, India-Japan relations are crucial, a cornerstone of the multilateral Indo-Pacific. As always, history completes a full circle. The conflict between these two countries defined World War II in the subcontinent. Peace between them could define our century. With the WION team in Tokyo, this is Palki Sharma Upadhyay. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.